What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be taking a look at why I believe the introduction of Street Fighter into VEVE will be one of the biggest gaming related launches they ever do. But before we do this, if you enjoy this video and find it in any way useful and informative to you, then please consider liking, subscribing to the channel and let me know in the comment section below your thoughts and feelings behind the ideas that I share with you today. So the first thing I want to do is take your attention to the total amount of sales generated by Street Fighter since its inception in 1987. Now the reason we like to do this, the reason I like to do this, is when we look at the total sales generated by a brand or a franchise, we can get an idea of the total demand. And seeing the total demand, we can get an idea of the total fan base and whether that fan base may translate into jumping over into NFTs and essentially adopt this new emerging market that VEVE, in my opinion, is looking to monopolize over the coming months and over the coming years. Now, when we have a look at Street Fighter, we can see that they've done millions of units sold. Now, this is important because if a game was not popular, then you would not see this translate into millions of sales. And if a game wasn't popular, you would not see a brand or the franchise go on to release multiple different versions. And in Street Fighter's case, they have done tens and tens of different styles of games. They've been able to produce many different games in many different platforms. And you just would not see this. If a brand was not popular, it would not go this far. This is why you see it in films all the time. You know, we can use Shrek as an example. They released Shrek 1 and it was very popular. And so because it was popular, they released Shrek 2 and Shrek 3 and continue to release sort of little animated style films, sort of Christmas specials, etc. Now, you see this mainly with successful brands. This is because they have a loyal fan base that enjoy the franchise and they enjoy what the company's releasing. And so seeing that within Street Fighter, if we scroll through, we can see a consistent theme here across the years since 1987 all the way through here to their most recent release in 2018, and continuing to do millions of sales, continue to sell millions of units across a variety of different platforms, showing their diversity and wanting to introduce their game into PS3, Xbox 360, PC, PSP, showing and highlighting that they want to facilitate that demand to allow their users to enjoy their games on multiple different platforms, and also seeing that they have their fan base enjoy these different platforms as well can give us an idea about their willingness to maybe potentially move over into the NFT space, because a handheld console is very different to a console like PS4, which is very different to PC gaming. And seeing that there's many different types of people that sort of adopt that interest across these variety of different platforms, we may get a general feel and idea about whether they'll translate into the NFT space, because they're a bit sort of their ability to try out these different platforms. So they may translate and follow Street Fighter into the NFT space. So what I want to do here is just show you that they've done 46 million in total units sold. Now, this is a massive, massive amount of games. And to see them be able to maintain their relevancy within fighting culture or within sort of gaming culture over these years just further highlights the magnitude of this brand and why I believe that introducing this into the VEVE platform will be one of the biggest introductions that VEVE ever do. And just to further sort of touch upon this, they were the third highest grossing arcade style game of all time. And we'll show this in the stats a little later on. Another thing I just wanted to highlight, and I wasn't sure if other people were aware of this, is that Street Fighter have actually released films. Now, I actually didn't know this before doing my research that they've done this before. So this further highlights my point that I've made in previous videos, that when a franchise is successful and when there's brand loyalty that's being implemented, you'll see them diversify into these different areas. And seeing now that Street Fighter have gone into films to facilitate that demand, that people are enjoying the franchise enough to want to get involved with both the games and want to watch the films, gives us a general idea behind whether this fan base will move over into the NFT space. And the other point I want to touch upon as well is, you know, Street Fighter correlates within sort of my idea of their vision behind VEVE, wanting to be a more interactive and gaming style NFT platform. And seeing what they've already introduced onto VEVE in this sort of action figure style NFTs, we can see Street Fighter being a great addition into this, further highlighting why I believe this is going to be a big launch when they decide to do it further down the line. But we can see here they've done 217 million in gross sales across their films, just further highlighting and solidifying that demand that we can clearly see from the games, but also translates into the films. The next thing I want to do is touch upon the point I made previously is Street Fighter started out and originated within video game arcade cabinets. So you could go into an arcade shop and you can play against your friend on Street Fighter. All of us, I would presume, have some recollection of Street Fighter within this. This was my initial I don't know how to word it. When I first saw it, essentially, it was in sort of arcade style. And we can see here, all versions of the game have grossed over $10 billion in revenue, mostly from arcades. This is a massive deal. Now, I've touched upon this before. When you see a franchise break into the billions, it touches and starts to breach into that global impact. This is a game that has gone on to touch the lives or be a part of the gaming lives of many people across the world. And we'll touch upon this a little later as well, how they have community-driven events and championships and competitions, which sort of highlights what Street Fighter have done. They've created a community, a culture for people to compete against each other, bringing them together, increasing that loyalty, increasing that passion base within Street Fighter, which may be a positive indication that when we introduce the Street Fighter NFT into the gaming, into the VEVE platform, we may see this translation because of this community-driven feel that Street Fighter have been able to produce. Now, what I want to do here is take us over to the top 10 highest-grossing arcade games of all time, because this, when you see where they place here, this will give you an idea about the sheer volume they've been able to produce and why this is such a huge brand that's going to be brought into the VEVE platform in the coming months, or, well, in the future. We're not 100% sure when it's going to happen, but it's definitely in the future. Now, they placed number 3 on this list, but I'm going to scroll through and let's read through some of these names. We got Donkey Kong, massive arcade game. Mortal Kombat, huge game. They still translate these games into current releases now, further showing that, you know, these fighting style games are held within gaming culture. This 1v1 PvP competition style games have stood the test of time, and seen that loyal fan base sort of stick around with Street Fighter. We could see them translate and adopt this new style of NFT collectible and come into this new emerging market in this new space. Now, we've got Mortal Kombat that come over here again. We've got Asteroids, huge game. Defender. We got NBA Jam. Then we got Pac-Man. See, Street Fighter within some of these big, massive names. These are some of the world's biggest arcade-style games. And we've got here Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, sitting with cabinet sales of 200,000. Revenue by 1995 was $2.3 billion by 1995, sorry. Further highlighting the volume behind this game. This was a humongous deal, and it still is to current day. This is why they still release games. This is why they still have competitions. This is why people still get involved with Street Fighter, because it's just as fun as it was back then as it is now, because it's a community-driven game. And that's really important. When you build community around a brand and you get people involved in something that they can be a part of with somebody else, and they can compete against one another, and they can get involved and go to these competitions, and they can play with their friends and family. You'll see this translation into the VEVE marketplace of when they release their NFTs, because they have associated memories and a sort of good feeling behind the brand that they've been able to have over time, which is a very important thing to keep in mind, and why I believe Street Fighter is going to be a huge introduction. Now, I'm going to keep scrolling through, and you can see the only 2 games above them was Space Invaders. Now, Space Invaders was humongous. We all know this, so this is without surprise that Space Invaders comes there, and then Pac-Man is number 1, and that, I don't think that surprises us here. But seeing Street Fighter sit at number 3 just highlights the size and the global impact this brand has been able to have over time. The next thing I want to touch upon here is their ability to go into sort of real world events. Now, I've actually really enjoyed watching these. I watch them on YouTube quite often, seeing this sort of 1v1 tournament style events, the hype, the atmosphere, the fans, the culture. And the reason I want to make a point about this is that they're keeping their fans engaged by bringing them together. Now, I know I've said this earlier on in this video, but I need to push this point home. Community-driven events are a huge part of why this brand is going to be massive introduction into VEVE. You know, when you can build and you can introduce these competition style events, it just highlights why they've been able to sort of stand the test of time. You know, you'll see there's like top 10 epic moments within tournaments, and there's even sort of leading sort of fighters within Street Fighter. These really famous names that have been inside of Street Fighter culture, and people look back in history and have built nostalgia within what Street Fighter have been able to produce within these events and within the games, and having positive and exciting memories behind these epic moments that people have been able to do with these more complex characters. Now, this is important because when VEVE released this NFT, we need passionate fans like this to have adoption. This is why they're introducing brands. This is why brands are so important. Because when you start a new market, or you're trying to emerge into a new market, having brand loyalty will sort of bring down the resistance to somebody wanting to try and get involved with something new. And so seeing what Street Fighter have done in the history and seeing what they produce up to current day can give us an idea about what how their fan base feel about the brand, and what they might feel like when they see an NFT released into the VEVE platform. The next thing I sort of want to touch upon here is I just want to reflect a few ideas of you what we could potentially see being introduced in the form of NFTs. Now, what I've done here is I've actually gone on to see the top 10 Street Fighter characters of all time. Now, the reason I think this is important is that performance of a character in-game could potentially correlate to where the demand might lie when the NFT is launched, because not all characters are good in Street Fighter. Now, they all have different levels of utility, and if you've ever watched it, they've all have their different sort of strengths and weaknesses. But there are certain characters that sort of in some ways monopolize the general I guess the general OP, overpowered nature within fighting and combat games. And seeing that and seeing how these characters may produce in tournaments, and how they sort of dominate within tournaments, etc. and etc. We may see that they translate these particular NFTs or these particular characters into NFTs because their demand. I hope that makes sense. I just think that's the easiest way for us to sort of get an idea about what we could see being introduced, is by looking at the popularity behind the actual character performance in game, and why that might be what we see being introduced into the NFT. So we got Akuma, and I'm just going to scroll through here. We got Dudley, Alex, and we're just going to go through, and I'm just going to scroll through just so you can get a general feel. We're only going to touch on this quickly about the potential type of NFTs you may see based on the performance of the character in game. So this is really, really exciting, and I really look forward to seeing Street Fighter being introduced into VEVE. And then finally, which I think is a really important point to make, is we have already seen VEVE speculate on bringing this more interactive element into their platform, allowing people to actually use their NFTs. Now, Street Fighter is a perfect example about how you could bring people together in this 1v1 PvP style game, and how in this video what I've seen here is just an example of what AR tech could do in terms of actually you buying the NFT or buying a secret and ultra and being able to fight your friend in real time, in real life, or even inside this augmented reality, which I think is really exciting. So what I'm going to do is just sort of play this video, turn this volume all the way down so you guys can see what this potentially could be like. And as we can see, this is a really, really cool idea. Seeing you be able to fight in real life, in real world. And with the technology, I'm going to pause this here, with the technology that's being released and sort of constantly evolved within VEVE, we could potentially see this style of NFT where you've been able to fight one-on-one, and seeing the community-driven element behind Street Fighter and what their fans already enjoy and what they're already passionate about, and what I believe their franchise will push for something like this. And I think this will be a humongous deal for VEVE. This could be huge, to have the ability for a community to be able to fight 1v1 that links in with the historic culture within the game already, and within the community-driven element of Street Fighter. I think having this AR tech developed and this 1v1 PvP would be really cool. But at my point, this is a speculation, but seeing what VEVE have already done in terms of their augmented reality and their intention to keep pushing within gaming, I think this could be a very interesting partnership and a very interesting style game, AR game moving forward. So this is the video. I hope you've learned something from this and you've really enjoyed my breakdown of Street Fighter. I'm personally really excited about the introduction of it, and I look forward to it being released. I do believe it is going to be humongous when they decide to do it. If you enjoyed this video and watched it all the way to the end, I appreciate you being here. Please consider liking, subscribe to the channel, and like I say, let me know in the comment section below your thoughts and feelings behind this video. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.